We've got this, this Chinese political scandal. It's the biggest scandal in a generation in China. It involves Bo Xilai, and his wife is implicated in the murder of a British businessman in Chongqing. Their son had been studying at Harvard, and through some looked like some real shoe leather reporting on the part of you guys have determined that it appears that he has left his Harvard apartment. This is Bo Guagua, the son.
Yes, right. So it appears that he was living in an apartment building. A nice building just outside of campus near Harvard Square, and so he's no longer at that building, which was interesting because last week, as more of the details of this were beginning to unfold, and we were learning about the connections with his mother in more detail, and his father losing his leadership posts, he appeared to still be there. He was still there, and so now the question is just kind of where is he exactly?
And why also? I mean, is there any sense that he is implicated at all in the charges that it's Mr. Haywood, the British businessman who was allegedly poisoned? Is there any indication that the son might be involved in all of this?
Well, he hasn't been named a suspect, and no one's indicated that he's a suspect. What we do know is that it's been said that he had economic ties to Mr. Haywood.
Okay.
That's very vague, and so I think we'll see over time maybe what that means. Certainly, if he went back to China, he'd be expected to face more questioning.
One thing that we do know in terms of ties to Mr. Haywood is that Mr. Haywood helped Guagua, get into a very elite private school in England where I think you were supposed to be on the waiting list since birth or something like that. He helped him kind of jump over that waiting list, and so there were favors that were done for the family on behalf of the son.
Well, there's certainly some of that, and I think that's part of what we'll find out over time as some of this kind of what exactly were the relationships between Mr. Haywood and Bo Guagua's mother and Bo Guagua himself, and it'll probably take some time to all get sorted out. And it's interesting. You sort of have to think about from Bo Guagua's perspective of what do you do next? Your parents are are facing quite a serious situation at home. Incredibly powerful and important couple there. And so now what do you do? He's got a few weeks left before he finishes his program at the Harvard Kennedy School.
Yeah, and as you say, who knows what it means for the finances to support the apartment that you described and living expenses, etc. And as we chatted about briefly, one wonders if the publicity surrounding this, including in China, will raise the whole question of these so-called princelings, that he's one of, this privileged group of younger people who are the children of these very powerful and wealthy families.
And that's what I found so fascinating, that you've got Bo Xilai, who's really pushing in the city of Chongqing, which many of us before this had never heard of, but is a giant megacity, bigger than most cities in the
30 million population.
Exactly, giant city. But you have him pushing kind of a Mao revival, and then you have his son, and there have been allegations that I think he drove around a red Ferrari, right? So it's very contradictory, which obviously politically didn't go over well for Bo Xilai.
And Bo Xilai has found himself in the position of saying, no, my son doesn't really have this car, and we don't live this way, and it's a really interesting dynamic. And then you see here, after a couple of years of living here, I think Americans have probably just started to learn about who is Bo Guagua, and through these stories and this very interesting, kind of epic saga.
And is now the investigation in China in the death of Mr. Haywood and all the related things, that's now we just sort of wait and see what the Chinese officials come up with?
I think so. I think there's also other investigations that are going. It's hard to maybe more happening than we can even see in terms of who's looking into this and what different angles are coming at it and how big it is exactly. So yeah, it'll take some time, I think, to get it all sorted out.
And even if he's not, implicated in all that's going on, I mean, the Communist Party itself the communist leadership really wants to do a lot to separate themselves from Bo Xilai. So you figure that, the son, obviously the mother is implicated, but the son is going to be under a lot of public scrutiny. So maybe at this point, best to, stay out of the public eye.
I think that's the big question. What do you do? What do you do next? If you're Bo Guagua, you probably want to finish your studies because you got a few weeks left. But what do you do? I mean, do you try to go back? Do you stay here? Do you try to, you try to make other arrangements? What do you do?